Before getting into the case, I would like to take this opportunity to thank this episode's sponsor, Hunt a Killer, which is a murder mystery subscription box that sends subscribers a fictional true crime experience every month. Hunt a Killer is perfect for those interested in experiencing the thrill of being a detective racing against time to solve a case, or for those who have a taste for mystery. Hunt a Killer is divided into different seasons, with each episode's investigations spanning over the course of 6 months. Each player is given a pile of case files, documents, audio recordings, and evidence in order to piece together the puzzle and catch the murderer. The contents of each box are exceptionally crafted, from detailed handwritten notes to personal effects. Hunt a Killer is an impressive and exciting product which is guaranteed to make any true crime fan feel immersed in a dark, suspenseful world. I personally loved this product and I was blown away by the high quality of all the materials. And another thing I love is the fact that with every subscription box sold, a portion of the profits are donated to the Cold Case Foundation, which is a non-profit organisation that raises public awareness and aids law enforcement in their investigations of cold cases. Ultimately, you get to experience a fictional mystery as well as helping to potentially solve real-life ones. Each box ships worldwide and costs just $25 per month. Exclusively for viewers of Dark Curiosities, you can get 20% off the first box using the discount code DARK at checkout at huntakiller.com. Thank you once again to Hunt a Killer for sponsoring this video. On the night of the 12th of July 1984, a couple pitched their tent in a wooded area by Lake Vålåp, Appojaure, located in the mountainous Swedish province of Lapland. They were 34-year-old Janne and 39-year-old Marinus Stiegehuis, who were both from Almelo in the Netherlands. Earlier that evening, they had arrived by car at the camping ground between 4:30 p.m. and 6 p.m, quickly choosing a remote yet crowded area and cooked their dinner on a stove before retiring to bed between 9 p.m. and 10 p.m. Their trip had been planned for quite some time, and the pair, who were keen photographers and nature lovers, were eager to travel in the land of the midnight sun, through the North Colotte region, and wished to visit Gällivare, which lay 7 miles from the campground, the Northern Cape, and eventually arrive in Finland. The couple were last seen by Jarl Carlson, who saw them refueling their vehicle in Skaulo, 124 miles from the campsite by Lake Appojaure. Around 24 hours later, on the 13th of July, at approximately 10 p.m, the Gällivare police received a phone call from a member of a family from Gothenburg who informed them that they had found a collapsed, blood-stained tent with what looked like 2 lifeless bodies resting beneath the fabric. The security officer and on-duty inspector quickly arrived on the scene with a search dog and, at first glance, noticed the abandoned car, collapsed tent, a makeshift sitting and dining area along with a camping stove, discarded food wrappers and beer cans. The Toyota Corolla the couple had arrived to the site in was locked and was untouched, according to police. However, later reports stated that some personal items were missing from the vehicle, which was eventually scrapped in the Netherlands. After examining the scene, they approached the tent. Opening the tent, a filleting knife, which was absent of its tip, suddenly fell out. Within the tent lay the bodies of Marinus and Janne Stiegehuis, who had been brutally stabbed to death, with slashes and a high volume of blood present on both of their bodies. Other members of the police were alerted to the crime scene, and it was found that there were numerous cuts, estimated as being around 100 to the tent itself, many of which penetrated through the canvas and fatally wounded the couple, reportedly up to 30 stab wounds each. Marinus also had a bruise on his face. The missing tip of the fillet knife was recovered and was determined to have belonged to the Stiegohuises. It was determined by Swedish authorities that the perpetrator had used 2 knives to commit the murders, the second of which was thought to have had a much wider blade in comparison to the fillet knife and was brought to the scene by the killer. Police concluded that the attack was random and carried out by an extremely violent and irrational person who was likely around 30 years old and was familiar with the Appojaure area and its surroundings, including the village of Gällivare. Personal items belonging to the victims, such as an Olympus OM10 camera and lens, a gold necklace, traveller's checks, and a Mellotron cassette radio, were missing. However, Yanni's purse was found in a ditch a few miles from the tent. The crime was also committed in broad daylight. Even though it was in nighttime hours, it was the time of year where Sweden experiences 24 hours of daylight, hence the nickname of the country being the land of the midnight sun. Unfortunately, any DNA evidence retrieved at the crime scene was lost or destroyed. The previous evening, on the night of the murders, it had been raining frequently, which meant that any evidence, such as footprints, were washed away. Piecing together the evidence they had, which included a diary with a final entry dated on the 12th of July, police determined that the Dutch couple had been killed between midnight and 2 a.m. on the 13th of July. Due to an error in the initial search, police did not gather witness testimonies of other campers and could not verify the people who were present near and around the campsite that night. Approximately 9 miles from the crime scene near a forest, a brown briefcase was found in a bog by a berry picker on the 22nd of July, who notified authorities of their discovery. The briefcase did not belong to the deceased couple, however, after inspecting its contents, police were able to determine that documents, a handbag, and a passport found inside the briefcase belonged to Yanni Stiegohuis, and the sheath for the fillet knife was also recovered. After close examination, no further clues were evident on the items, which left police frustrated. In May 1985, the missing cassette was found in a trench 10 miles north of the scene of the murder. The camera bag was found in the possession of a man in Stockholm who had found the bag in the autumn of 1984. He became curious about the owner of the bag when he found out about the murders, as there was a name etched on a label inside the camera bag which said Stiegohuis. After realising the connection of the bag to an unsolved murder, he disposed of the contents with little value, which included 20 rolls of used film. Swedish police, who were working alongside Dutch police on the case, failed to identify the reasons as to both how and why the bag ended up in Stockholm. The family that had initially found the bodies of Marinus and Yanni reported seeing someone on a bicycle a few miles from the campsite, and on the 14th of July, the day following the double murder, police questioned a West German cyclist who was en route to Gällivare. The 33-year-old man cooperated with authorities and explained that he had cycled to Sweden via Denmark following midsummer and had originally started his journey in the city of Wuppertal in West Germany. He had not intended on staying in Sweden, as he had planned on going to the archipelago of Lofoten in Norway, but he was forced to turn around when no road would take him further across the Norwegian border. It became apparent that the man was a professional boxer who was a member of the national team and held a criminal record. He stated that he had camped within fairly close proximity of the Stiegehuises and, during interrogation, appeared to not only talk derogatorily about human beings in general, but also avoided some questions and gave vague answers. He had no belongings or money on him other than the clothes on his back and his bike, and he stated that he would go fishing in order to survive in the wilderness. Despite his criminal past, narrow-mindedness and apparently violent character, police could not firmly link him to the murders, and further witness statements proving he was not at the campsite determined that it was impossible for him to have committed the crime. Another suspect was identified by police and was known only as the bodybuilder, who was a 31-year-old man who was allegedly involved with a group of violent people in the area. He was familiar to Swedish police and was known to abuse drugs and alcohol. He was present in the Appojaure area on the night of the murders with 2 other people. According to 2 separate witnesses, the trio were reportedly intoxicated and left lots of discarded items behind in the camping ground and its surroundings. The 2 companions were unable to provide police with an alibi for the bodybuilder, but explained that he had left them for a while that night, only to return covered in blood. He told them with a knife in hand that he had killed a reindeer. Despite the suspicious circumstances, the incident could not be verified and police never pursued the man further. He is not considered a suspect in the case. 8 years later, the bodybuilder was serving a prison sentence and allegedly admitted his guilt to a fellow inmate. Apparently, he became angry with his friends and left the pair alone. As the evening progressed, he found the campsite of the Stiegehuises and, believing them to be his companions, killed them in a rage. Police investigated this claim, however, when questioning the inmate, were not given any answers. In 1996, the bodybuilder attempted to break in to a retirement home which was 5 miles from the 1984 crime scene. The residents barricaded the entry to the dwelling and, in an uncontrollable rage, the man cut off his forearm using an axe and bled to death. Swede Sture Ragnar Bergvall, also known as Thomas Quick, who was believed to have been a serial killer, having admitted to at least 30 murders whilst incarcerated in a psychiatric institution due to personality disorders, was for a time considered a suspect in the case. He allegedly admitted to the Appojaure tent murders in 1994 and volunteered to assist authorities in carrying out reconstructions of what happened on the night of the killings. Bergvall was convicted of the crime in 1996, despite lack of evidence and the fact he provided a lot of incorrect information during the reconstructions. He then recanted his confession, and in 2013 the conviction was overturned, acquitting Bergvall of the crime. Many tips were given to police during the 1990s. However, since Bergvall was convicted of the murders, authorities did not follow up on any of the tips. There are several theories regarding what could have happened. However, it is believed that the couple were victims of a random attack, carried out by a mentally unstable individual. The motive for such an attack unclear. Over 3 decades have passed since Marinus and Jani Stiegehuis were murdered in their tent on a summer night in Sweden. No further clues or answers have come to light, and the case has gone cold.